Are you tired of grief stealing your joy, your energy, and your peace? Hey y'all, welcome to Grief Relief for Christian Women. I'm Patty Jackson. I'm a widow and a Christian grief and trauma coach. Inside the podcast, we'll explore how tears and laughter can exist in the same moment. Joy is still possible, even in the middle of the pain and heartache. You're not alone, and you should not have to figure this out by yourself. Let's trust God and start living life again. Today I want to talk to you about faith in the fog. That's the season of grief where you love God, but you can't feel Him. You believe, but you just don't really want to believe right now. You want to pray, but the words just won't come. And I'm going to say this right out of the gate because somebody needs to hear it. There is nothing wrong with you if your faith feels foggy in grief. That's part of grief. Grief doesn't mean you've lost your faith. It means your heart has been through trauma. I remember thinking early on, I'm a grown adult. I should be handling this better. Anyone else ever feel that way? Well, it turns out grief doesn't care what Bible verses I've memorized. So let's name the fog. Faith fog sounds like, God, I know you're there. I just can't feel you. I believe in heaven, but I miss Him here. I don't want another scripture. I want my life back. I'm not sure how to pray. Praying for me to relieve the pain I was having felt too selfish. Going to church. That was a hard one for me. I and Ralph had looked for a church for probably a year before we landed on the one we were going to. He always wanted the old Baptist choir that sang gospel hymns, and I wanted the new modern worship service. So after searching many churches in the area we lived in, we landed on one that was in our neighborhood. Literally, it took us 1 minute from our door to that front door, parking included. So I went back to church, I don't know, maybe it was 2 months after, and I was a server in the child care area, so I went to say hi to everybody, and that just brought loads of tears. It was awful. I hated that day, even though everyone was just being their, kind selves and letting me know they support me. It was hard nonetheless. So every time they would sing one of Ralph's favorite songs, which were like Amazing Grace, or It Is Well With My Soul, or This Is My Song, This Is My Story, something like that, I would just boo-hoo like a baby. And it didn't seem to help me any. I had to teach myself, instead of being sad when they would sing Amazing Grace, to visualize Him standing next to me, and I can hear His angelic voice singing it right next to me. And that brought me joy instead of sadness. There's also one of his favorite songs was, I think it was called This Is My Song, This Is My Story. And I love it because his family used to tell me that when he was little, I guess he started singing at, 3 or 4 with his mom playing the piano at church. And he would sing that song as, he would say, this is my tong, this is my Tory. And it just makes me laugh every time I hear it. So instead of being sad about the songs that the churches sing, I had to learn how to be happy about those songs. This doesn't make me a bad Christian. It makes me a grieving one. So my own experience with faith in the fog is something pretty personal. There were days when my faith wasn't very powerful at all. Some days my prayers were literally, God, I'm here. Get me out of bed. And you know what? That counted. I got out of bed. I might not have done much, but I got out of bed. I think we call that baby steps. I had to learn the idea that faith doesn't mean being strong all the time. Because grief stripped me down. I didn't have energy for long prayers. I didn't have words. Sometimes I didn't even have tears. I was just numb. It just seemed like it would never end. The crying, the numbness, the non-motivation, the crying, the non-motivation, the numbness. It just was a vicious cycle. So God is close to the brokenhearted. I learned this by reading verses in the Bible. One of the verses that eventually found me, not the other way around, was Psalms 34:18. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. Not the polished, not the strong, not the ones who have it together, but the brokenhearted. Here's my hot take on that. If grief has crushed your spirit, you're actually exactly where God says He is closest. The fog doesn't mean He left. It means he's sitting with you quietly. Sometimes God whispers instead of shouts. Sometimes his presence feels like stillness, not relief. Sometimes faith looks like surviving the day, not praising through it. So when you can't pray, let's talk about prayer for a second. Because grief wrecks prayer. If you can't pray, play worship music and let someone else carry that faith for you. Read the Psalms. David did plenty of ugly crying and questioning. Sit in silence and just say, God, I'm here. Also, Romans 8:26 says, the Spirit helps us in our weakness when we do not know what to pray for. God already knows what you can't say. You don't have to perform for him. You don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to clean up your grief before coming to him. Faith does not disappear. So here's something no one told me early on. Okay, well, maybe my mom did, but I don't have a specific memory of it. I'm sure she told me about it because she told me everything that had to do with God and heaven and my faith. Faith doesn't vanish in grief. Sometimes it just rests. Like winter, like soil that looks dead but isn't. Like seeds doing invisible work underground. All you can do right now is keep breathing, keep showing up, keep listening, and pray, pray, pray. For me, the grief didn't destroy my faith, it stretched it. I leaned into God in ways I never had before. What started out feeling small and shaky grew stronger over time, kind of like a little sapling that somehow turns into a solid oak. I truly don't know how I would have survived this journey without my belief in God, heaven, and the promise that life is not the end. Even now, I can't wrap my head around how anyone walks through grief without faith, because on my hardest days, faith was the only thing that kept me up. So let me give you a few ways to find God in the fog. Number 1, lower the bar. Faith isn't an hour-long quiet time. Not right now, anyway. It might be a verse on a sticky note. It might be a short read in the Bible. It could be your favorite scripture. Number 2, invite God into ordinary moments. The shower. I pray a lot in the shower. And the car. The grocery store aisle when grief hits out of nowhere. That usually brings on a prayer or two. Number 3, stop comparing your faith. Your walk doesn't have to look like anyone else's. Like I've said before, everyone's grief journey is unique to them. So don't compare yourself to anyone else's. Number 4, let others carry faith for you. Podcasts, scripture, community. That's why Grief Relief for Christian Women exists. Well, I wish I could tell you that fog lifts overnight, but it doesn't. But I can tell you this, one day you'll realize you can breathe a little deeper, laugh a little easier, pray without forcing it, and joy starts to slip back in slowly. Not because you forgot your loss, but because God met you in it. I remember one day about 2 months into it that I said to myself, look, you haven't cried all day. Of course, then I started bawling because I thought I was forgetting him. Faith doesn't mean the fog never comes. It means you're not walking through it alone. So if today's episode helped you, I want you to know you're not failing at faith. You're healing, and God is closer than you think. If you need support, community, or just a place where people get it, you belong here. Grief Relief for Christian Women. We'd love to have you back next week. See you then. Bye. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I hope something in this episode gave you a little peace, a little hope, or maybe even a smile. If it did, would you do me a quick favor? Head over to Apple Podcasts and leave a review. It could help more widows find the courage to take their next step. Until next time, remember, you're not alone and joy is still possible.